Fascinating turn of events today when your Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, actually joined in a national cabinet meeting. Has she briefed you yet about how all that turned out?
Yes, she has.
Would you like to share any more with us?
You know I can't. It's a good question. I mean, I assumed it was confidential in the context of the meeting, and though she has briefed me, and I found it quite fascinating.
Well, it's an amazing turn of events. Of course, Australia and New Zealand cooperate so closely at so many levels, and at the government level there are constant meetings between Prime Ministers and Foreign Ministers. You and I have been in those meetings over the years ourselves previously. But do you like the idea of bringing it up to this level? Do you think this could happen post-pandemic, that occasionally the New Zealand Foreign Minister, maybe some of your other senior ministers, might actually join with a COAG meeting effectively?
Well, I think so, though, we've got to be very careful here that we're two nations and you're a federal state, of course, and I wouldn't like the clause in the New South Wales Constitution to come alive in your minds mentally about where we sit in this thing, because at that point in time, I think the South Island will say, well, we want to be the eighth state because we're an island too, and shortly things could pretty soon sort of destabilise. So I think the idea is great. I think cooperation is great. But on this big issue of COVID-19, I think we've got to move mentally to understand that the battle we've fought together has been so similar, so alike, and so capable of being trusted by each other, that if we take the ANZAC spirit that we are one population for this purpose in a Australasian bubble, we, I believe, can get this back on the track much faster than people think.
Well, there's no doubt about that. We both have that island nation status that's able to protect us. We've both managed the infection rate very well so far. But surely, given the very low rates of infection in Australia, even lower now in New Zealand, it is time to open up the economy. Don't you think both your government and the Morrison government are going a bit too slowly on this?
Well, I'm on this interview with you and I'd love to tell you my view, but I belong to a cabinet of collective responsibility. I believe we're going to come out of it very, very soon to a lower level. We're trying to get there. We've had 2 clean days in a row. I think your previous commentator was right about the fact that we are never going to beat COVID-19 in the way that people think until we get a vaccine. I think the herd mentality, the herd recipe, it sounds good, but when you go down that Darwinian track of the survival of the fittest, a lot of people are going to lose their lives. So we're counting on the world in 2020 with all our science and all our pharmaceutical advantages to find a solution. In the meantime, like you, I believe we should open our economy now, because we can't, I believe, get it better than this. We could stay where we are now for months, but the outcome will be devastating, and the number of deaths will happen because people aren't in our hospitals getting proper treatment, or, dare I say it, people are forced to suicide because of the misery and despair that the economic circumstances have delivered to them. Are serious balanced considerations for economic resumption in our considerations. They are certainly serious considerations that we should balance our thinking up with now.
Well, you would know, of course, that many small businesses who have been forced to shut down now would be incredibly stressed. There'd be family operations people have put their life effort into, and they're wondering whether or not they'll actually ever open again. They might actually go bust in this interim. So that is a life and death situation, giving those people the opportunity, whether it's a bookshop or a cafe, just to get up and running again.
Well, look, you're right. And you would be getting a lot of communications, and so are we. And I mean, this is a refrain, desperate as it is, that we must listen to. We've put billions into supporting workers to take them through this position. We just put billions in the other day to provide business loans at the lowest possible interest rate for 2 years, or the term will be 5 years, but they won't be paying interest after 2 years. And if they pay in the first year, they won't be paying any interest at all. So this is all designed to keep those businesses in the frame whilst we get the economic recovery in the frame. And so it's crisis time, and we've got to work real hard and use every sort of lateral outside the square, novel, interesting, fascinating thought we have, because we have to provide with the utmost urgency these solutions.
Just on that, you made it pretty clear that you're pretty keen to open up businesses and lower restrictions in New Zealand. Obviously, Australia's going to make announcements about that on Friday after another national cabinet meeting. Jacinda Ardern would have been involved in those discussions about where that's heading today. Does that give us an indication on New Zealand as well? Does that mean that, say, by Friday, you think New Zealand will be announcing some more relaxation of measures there?
Well, strange enough, I do watch a lot of Australia's news. I watch a lot of Sky News Australia because I want to see what's going on. And I did not think that today's meeting would have a great outcome in this context. Prove me wrong, but you've got a federal system, and I think you have a disparity of thinking between the government in Canberra and the states. There are some variations on that, say, for example, in Tasmania and elsewhere, but there's some disparity of thinking in your federal system, which I think is going to be a problem come Friday. I hope I'm wrong, but we will have to face reality.
Well, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said today that the states are going to have to go their own way to a degree. They'll have to make their own decisions. You're suggesting we've got some states very keen to unlock some of these measures and other states want to continue with a lockdown. Well,
I look at the obvious. I mean, you've got Victoria, schools are closed. Next door, South Australia, schools are open. Now, this is not a criticism of Australia, but we have the capacity here to make a decision nationwide, and we are looking with great hope that Australia can make a similar decision as well. Because the sooner we get our economies back in sync, then the better this componentry of our economic recovery, that is our trade, under CER going way back to the 70s, can be put back to normalcy. There's a lot of reasons for us to do our best to work in tandem and concentrate together.